Introduction. The video Conflict in Nursing Workplace depicts some scenarios that actually happen or similar scenarios that happen in our workplace. They were able to portray some behaviors that is happening unfortunately in my workplace. As defined in our textbook, conflict as expressed struggle between at least two interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from the other party in achieving their goals. All the description were present in the video, thus it becomes a conflict. I would like to discuss the communication climate and the levels of disconfirming messages. For the impervious, Brenna showing the nonverbal communication. She's not paying attention or eye contact, and she's always looking at her phone. Brenna did not care at all when the students are being introduced to her. And another nonverbal communication she does is not looking at the students when she was asked about something they were looking for, like the hypophex. And she just replies, "What?" without looking at them, showing no interest. And also for the impervious, Miss Cortrue, the nonverbal communication is pointing her finger or the pen towards the students when they can't answer her questions. She was trying to intimidate the students of sending them home because they don't know the answer to her questions. Brenna, another form of impervious, is Brenna's nonverbal communication is shaking her head while Tia and Tasha were trying to ask for help because they were swamped with patients, like 8 patients. And she just said to ask the help of Miss Cortrue instead. Another level of disconfirming messages is interrupting. It's Miss Cortrue is showing the nonverbal communication, is pointing her pen to Ainsley, who was trying to answer her question but ultimately cutting her off. And also Tasha and Tia, when they were asking Brenna's help, she just shrugged her shoulder and she didn't want to help them. For irrelevant response, Brenna's nonverbal communication is having no eye contact, smirking, and said, "I don't have a student" when the students are being introduced to her. And the nonverbal communication as well from Brenna is not looking to the students when they ask questions. And she just replied, "It's not my job," when she was asked if she saw Tia. Another is the tangential response, another form of disconfirming messages. From Tasha, the nonverbal communication was smirking. She said the textbooks are over there, over the corner, so the student should not ask stupid questions to her. When she was introduced, she could just simply say hi to them. And Miss Cortrue, the nonverbal communication, is pointing her pen to the students. She replied, what are we using hypophyx for?" and so on, where the questions are being bombarded to the students, where the questions are just simply asking for where the hypophyx are. And she even went to where the hypophyx is being manufactured. Another level of disconfirming messages is the impersonal response, where Brenna, the nonverbal communication, is looking at her phone again while answering, not giving her full attention to the person talking to her. And there's no eye contact. Example is when Tia and Tasha were asking for help because they needed help, and instead Brenna will just go to her coffee instead and said they can't wait. They can wait and the patient will be fine. And just told Tasha and Tia to ask help to Miss Chrono instead. Is the ambiguous response under the disconfirming messages. It's Brenna, the nonverbal communication is just smirking. Tia and Tasha were asking help but did not say yes or no, so she's giving a vague response to Tasha and Tia, but eventually she just said that she'll be going to for her coffee instead of just saying yes or no. Another level of disconforming message is the incongruous response, where the two contradictory messages. For Miss Cortro, the nonverbal communication is raising her hand when the speaker introduced to the students to her, and she enthusiastically told them to ask questions to her, being in the unit for more than 20 years. But when they asked her later that day about where to find the hypofix, because they cannot find the hypofix in the drawer, and she just asked more questions not related to the questions of the students, and she's not being very helpful as well, and she's not being very interested when they ask for help. Now we're done with the disconfirming messages. We will proceed to the confirming messages that could have been used or perhaps were later used to replace the disconfirming messages. And in this case is the recognition. Brenna could have at least used nod as the nonverbal communication when the students are being introduced, and they just say hi as the acknowledgement that will let them know that they are welcomed and not an inconvenience to them. Another level of the confirming messages is the acknowledgement. Brenna and Miss Cortro could at least listen to the students when they were asking some questions. Brenna and Cortro could paraphrase the students' questions. They could use paraphrasing examples and do some follow-up questions. Example is when the students ask, "We're looking for some hypofix," Miss Cortro could paraphrase, "So I see you're looking for some hypofix, don't you? Or aren't you?" The nonverbal communication could be arms on the side and not pointing at them. Another example is when the students are asking Brenna, "Did you see Tia anywhere?" She could have at least replied, I'm sorry, I haven't seen Tia. I haven't seen her." And another one is when the students are asking Brenna, "Can you help us find?" Because in the video, Brenna did not let the students finish their question. She could do it better by letting the students finish their question, and she could just say, "I see you're looking for hypofix. Sure, I can help you with that." And another thing is when the students are asking, "Do you know where we can find a hypofix?" We're looking for, sure, you can look for some hypofix in our bandage cart, and if it's not there, we might have run out, and I can show it to you where you can find it in our supply room. You can come along with me, and I'll show you where to find it. That's an example for the recognition is when Ashlyn, one of the students, is introducing herself as a partner of Tasha. Tasha could have at least replied, "Hi Ashlyn, my name is Tasha. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask," instead of saying, don't ask stupid questions and smirking while smirking. Another example is when the speaker said, "And Brenna is over there. If you have questions, you can ask her." Brenna could reply, "Hi, welcome to this unit. My name is Brenna, and if you have questions or concerns, please feel free to ask me." Instead of saying, "I don't have a student. I'm not interested of getting a student," in other words. Another example is when Tasha and Tia is asking for help. They said, "Brenna, is there any way you can help us?" And instead of saying she's going for her coffee break, Brenna could have at least replied, "Sure, I'll have my coffee break later when we're done." I would also like to discuss about the defensive and the supportive behaviors of the video. Example number 1 for the defensive supportive evaluation. The hypofix is a first-year staff. If you don't know this, you will be sent home, according to Cortro. And the description is, hypofix can be found in our bandage cart. If you can find any, we have a supply room. I'll show it to you where you will get it. Come and follow me. Control. According to Brenna, when she was asked by the students if she finds some hyperfix, where to get some hyperfix, and she was like, look again. And for the problem orientation, the positive one, have you tried checking hyperfix in our bandage cart? If not, if there's nothing in there, we might have run out. You can come with me and I'll show you where to get them in our supplier. For the strategy, example is, hi Ainsley, just so you know, our textbook is right around the corner, so you don't ask me stupid questions. The spontaneity, hi Ainsley, just so you know, we have our textbooks right around the corner. If you have some questions or concerns, you can find the answers there. And if not, you can also ask me, and I'll be glad to help you with your questions. For the neutrality, Brenna, is there any way you can help us? And me and Tasha are swamped with 8 patients. And what Brenna replied was, oh my God, that's fine, they're fine, something like that. And for the empathy, the positive one for the empathy, oh, that's dreadful. How are you doing? Like that. For the superiority, example is, you know, I'm a nurse in this unit for over 20 years, so if you have any questions, pass it on me, sweethearts. That speaks superiority. And for the equality, I can share with you anything that I know in this unit. Just feel free to ask me. And also for the certainty, when the students are asking, do you know where we can find hyperfix? So Miss Kurtro, instead of answering the questions, she gave another question instead, like, so what are we using hyperfix for? What are the indications for hyperfix? Do you know where the hyperfix is manufactured? You guys, this is the first year stuff. If you don't know, you will be sent home. You guys need to get it together. So the positive one, the provisionalism, could be, you can find hyperfix in our bandage cart. If there's nothing in there, we might have run out. Let me check in our supply room. You can go with me so I can show you where to get them. In conclusion, I love how the nurse in charge or the manager addressed the problem by asking one of their nurses, Tia, how's their day going, and making a follow-up about what's going on in their unit. And in my personal opinion, I would prefer instilling supportive behaviors to our team during endorsement every day in order to address the conflict in the workplace. And in cases where some conflicts needs thorough discussions, it would be best to talk to the parties involved privately so as not to embarrass any of them.